Hey, what is up, everybody? It is Uncle Matt here. This vlog is going to be a little bit different than a lot of vlogs I normally do because this one was just completely unplanned, kind of shooting from the hip, just kind of out of nowhere, off the cuff. I don't even know when I'm going to post it on the channel right now, but I just finished watching episode 3 of The Last of Us. Episode title, I just looked it up and I already forgot what it is. Long time. And holy cow, what an episode of television that was. One of the best single episodes of television I've ever seen. The show, you know, this is kind of what I'm going to get into. This just, the show has been blowing me away every week. It's 3 episodes in and it's been incredible. Week to week. 3 weeks in, it's blowing my mind how good the show is. And tonight's episode was absolutely insane. How good it was. I'm gonna, spoiler alerts out there. I can't talk about it without, like, you know, saying what happened in the episode, what's happened so far in the show. But what an episode of television. Nick Offerman. I don't know if you can win an Emmy off of doing one episode of television, but if you can, good Lord, give the Emmy to Nick Offerman right now. His portrayal of Bill. Unbelievable episode of television. The show has been absolutely unbelievable so far, which is insane to think, because you looked at it from I looked at it from the outside and I was like, all right, here we go. You know, it's a video game adaptation. It's another zombie show. We've already seen The Walking Dead, which kind of I liked at first and then just kind of got repetitive and fell off a cliff. But The Last of Us is doing things so much differently, just not being what you thought it was going to be at all. Absolutely incredible episode of television. My goodness, like, to tell... Alright, I'm getting into spoilers now. I can't beat around the bush anymore. Here comes the spoilers. To tell an entire love story in one episode of television, like from start to finish, first meeting to when you and your, you know, partner are done in one episode, is what a challenge that is, and how incredibly well The Last of Us pulled it off in this episode is, oh my god. Like, that's why I did this vlog. I wasn't planning on, like, doing like a Last of Us review vlog or anything like that, but I just finished the episode. I can't get it out of my head how good it was, how good the show has been so far. But that episode in particular, just Nick Offerman's performance, the actor who played Frank, I believe his name is Sean Bartlett's performance. Like, I immediately, like, looked him up. Like, I've never seen him in anything before, so I was like, what else has this guy been in? Apparently he's in White Lotus and a handful of other stuff that I don't watch. But 2 actors just telling a complete story of a lifetime, a complete thing, was so awesome. Like, there was just, I don't even know how to, like, articulate it right, because it was just so good. And there was, like, you know, I did see some initial reactions on Twitter already of like, oh, this was a diversion from the show. Why did we spend, like, you know, the most of the hour with these 2 characters we don't even know, only for them to, spoiler alert, you know, die. They don't play any impact in the show. You know, by the time Joel and Ellie reach their compound, they've already passed away, taken their own lives. Why did we divert from this? But I think the whole point of it was, it's, you know, the story was that Nick Offerman's character Bill is this, like, survivalist, lone wolf, wants to live on his own person, who met this other person that made them realize how important having someone in your life is, and that's the Frank character played by Sean Bartlett. I hope I've got his name right. And he leaves, in his suicide note, he assumes Joel will be the person that finds it, and he says, you know, you and I were alike, and that we just wanted to survive, just wanted to be ourselves, but I realized, you know, essentially through his partner Frank, that there was someone else out there worth living for. There was someone else worth fighting for. So their whole story, you know, Joel's on the fence with the whole journey with Ellie. Like, why is he doing whatever he's doing, risking his life, risking everything for this girl? And ultimately, Bill's story, Bill's life, what Bill had with Frank, is what serves as the piece of inspiration, the final little piece of the puzzle that Joel really needed to fully commit to this thing with Ellie, whatever it is, it's worth protecting, it's worth fighting for, it's worth seeing through in a way he maybe was not committed to. Because we've seen the first 2 episodes, he repeatedly is like, let's just ditch her, let's get rid of her, let's go back to the quarantine zone, let's get rid of this girl, why are we doing everything for this girl? So we saw this incredible story of what is important in this crazy zombie-plagued world, how this man who's similar to Joel found his inspiration, found his reason to keep surviving, keep fighting, and he's tried to pass that on to Joel to say, hey, we're the same, I found my thing, you need to find yours. He says, in his suicide letter that he thinks it's probably Tess, who is Joel's partner that actually died in episode 2. He wrote the suicide note not knowing that this Ellie character is now in Joel's life and that she is now the one that Joel has to fight for, has to survive for. And it just made so much sense. It was such like a crazy subversion way to do this. The whole show has just been like a crazy, awesome way to take what's kind of been a worn out trope, the zombie movie, the zombie TV show, the zombie story, and just like find new ways to do it. So for the starters, if you're not familiar, the zombie plague in The Last of Us is a fungal plague through mushrooms, cordyceps mushrooms, that it's based on something that's real life, that can really happen. There's cordyceps mushrooms can overtake ants and basically turn them into zombie-like creatures that, the mushrooms sort of manipulate, control, and turn insane. Currently, that cannot happen in humans because the cordyceps mushrooms can't survive at the level of our body temperatures in humans. But basically the show, I don't know if this was in the video game or not. I know that the mushrooms are like there, but I don't remember how much the video game elaborated on why they were able to exist the way they do. But the mushrooms were able to evolve because as the Earth's general temperature has raised over years, the mushrooms, as things in nature do, evolved and developed more resistance to heat, which allowed them to then be able to survive and overtake humans and spread and create the same kind of virus plague type thing that they have in ant populations. Which it's another reason the show's so good, because it's kind of terrifying how borderline, I don't know if realistic almost seems like a stretch, but borderline realistic it is, because it's based on something that's real in nature. They use, global warming, which is a concern, to amplify that, to explain how it could happen. But then you just combine it, there's so much imagery, so much stuff of the initial outbreak, so much stuff of the way they're treating people that is reminiscent of, the early days of COVID in 2020, when we didn't know what that was and what it was really going to be, and we were, maybe overly afraid, maybe rightly afraid, maybe, it's just, that's what I think made The Last of Us hit right out of the gate for me when I first saw the first episode, was it just had, they created like a realistic zombie plague that makes you go, oh crap, that could kind of happen. But then kind of the parallels to what we went through over the last 2 to 3 years in real life that were kind of playing out in the show also were kind of eerily creepy and wild. It's been a great show. I'm kind of rambling. I don't really have any kind of guide or any kind of script that I'm going off here. I'm just kind of rambling off the top of my head of this because I just was so blown away by that episode of TV I just watched. Such a good show. It's 3 episodes in now. If you haven't watched Last of Us yet, you have to. I mean, it's so good. Catch up on it now because it feels like it's going to be one of the shows. I think it's already starting to get there, but it's going to get even bigger as it goes, where everybody's going to be talking about it the next day. It's going to be hard to avoid spoilers. You're not going to be able to wait and binge it the way you can with some other shows. Catch up on it now before it gets too deep into it. Man, is it a good show. I will say, one thing that I find kind of annoying about it, the one thing I don't like about it was, okay, so episode 1, there were subtle clues, subtle hints dropped about what caused the zombie virus, the fungal plague, whatever you want to call it, the pandemic. Where, the people that do podcasts, people that analyze TV shows really deeply were able to go back in and go look at these Easter eggs. This is you can kind of piece it together. You can kind of piece it together and say this is maybe where it was. And it was that's cool that they kind of subtly laid out an explanation to it, because that's another thing. I feel like most zombie stuff feels like they don't ever explain it. They're just like, there's a zombie plague, everybody's eating each other, whatever. So it's kind of cool to have like a built-in and kind of scarily, potentially realistic explanation for it there. But then in episode 2, they just came back and like, instead of having like the subtle hints they left out in episode 1, episode 2 came back and was like, here's exactly what happened. You were right. Everything you saw in for episode 1, here's exactly what happened. And I was like, oh, okay, well that was, got the explanation way too quick. It was almost kind of cool that they just kind of subtly had revealed it or left it in the background episode 1, but then episode 2 was like, oh, we're just going to hit you over the head with it. This is what happened. And then kind of the same thing in episode 3. Episode 3, there's like a further, it's like, it seems like every episode there's like subtle hints, subtle clues about stuff, about how things happened. And then the following episode comes over and it goes, oh, did you not catch all those hints? Did you not catch all those clues in last episode? Bang, we're going to hit you over the head and fully explain it. So I kind of wish they would leave it to the more subtle background hints, clues about the bigger picture that happened, what caused it and such and whatever. But that's a very minor, complaint. The show's absolutely incredible. I'll say it again, if you haven't watched it yet, now's the time. 3 episodes in. Catch up on it now before you get left behind. It's so insane that like a zombie show based on a video game just should be so stupid and so not good at this point in time, but they've just knocked it out of the park. HBO very smartly got the creator, writer, showrunner from Chernobyl to take on this property. And Chernobyl was so good because, I mean, like, one of the things that made Chernobyl so good is, like, the story. I like, sometimes the biopics and, like, true story events, it's always, like, weird to me. Like, the story, what happened, the end game, what's the intrigue here? So it's really almost a harder task on the filmmaker to take a true story and make it intriguing if you already know. That's like, I always remember thinking back when Argo came out, everybody's like, Argo's such a good movie, Argo's going to win Best Picture, Argo's a great movie. And I was like, when I watched Argo, I was like, everybody's putting in good performances. It's a fair enough movie, but the suspense, the intrigue of it never really grabbed me because I was like, we know the end game. We know these people got out. We know the mission's a success. So in a situation like a TV show like Chernobyl, where you know what happened, the story, to be able to turn that into an intriguing, entertaining television show is a tall task, and the creator of that show did really well. And he's come in and he said, hey, here's a video game. Make it into a good TV show. And just absolutely incredible. Like, the character Bill, very different in the show. Frank is already gone, not existent in the video game. So to just take those two kind of side characters that are just like, in a lot of ways, not that consequential in the video game, and like to do such an incredible story with them, such an incredible episode of TV based around them is just like, what an achievement. I mean, I don't know what else to say. I feel like I could give more like concise, detailed analysis of the show if I had like really like, made a breakdown of what I wanted to talk about in this episode, but I was just so blown away by the episode I just watched that I was like, I'm just going to turn the camera on and I'm going to spit. So that's it. That's what I have to say. I loved it. I loved that episode of television. I've loved the show so far. I don't know the last time that there was a show where I was like actively like, when the new episode comes up, I have to watch it as soon as possible. Like, even House of Dragon was probably the most recent thing that was sort of in that realm, but even that, we were watching, like, that one didn't hook me anywhere near the way this has. We're like, House of Dragon, sometimes we weren't watching, we'd watch like 3 episodes in a row because we'd wait a few weeks till we watched them. This one, I'm like, every Sunday night, appointment television, I have to watch Last of Us now. So it's my thoughts. Just want to share it with the community because it was just in my head after watching that episode that I had to, like, vent, share, discuss, talk. If you've watched it, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'll be watching it again next Sunday night. I probably won't do any more like vlogs about it or anything like that because I feel like I've just, not really good at reviewing stuff so much, just because I kind of just ramble and just kind of blabber on about how much I like it or if I don't like it. So maybe at the end of the season, when we kind of see it all out, maybe I'll do like a season wrap-up video. I don't know. But the way you'd find out if I did or not would be to subscribe to the channel with the bell turned on for notifications. Tune in to The Last of Us every Sunday night. That's all I got to say. I don't know what else to say about this one. This is such a weird video to do just because I was so blown away by episode 3, long time, of The Last of Us. Hope you watched it. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did not, jump on the bandwagon now. It's not too late. Whew. I don't know if I can go to bed now. Holy, what are we going to do? I think I'm going to watch Station 11. I've heard good things about that. Maybe not tonight, though. Maybe I'll go to sleep and try to watch it tomorrow. What do you think, Oli? Should we go to sleep? Can we go to sleep?